Wish I had just gone down to them. We were so busy that oftentimes we didn't have time, but I wish one afternoon I'd just say, hey, can I come down here and just watch how you do this? Whether it's change an engine, do this, swap out an ejection seat, because it was amazing. I remember first day out, I was up there with George Jenner, the commander. He said, after our morning briefing was over, he goes, okay, Zettel, come with me. We jump in his Jeep and we go down to the MiG-21 hangar, followed by the MiG-23 hangar, and the doors are opening as these guys are getting ready to, pull planes out of the barn and get out of the Jeep. And as we walk into this hangar, there are 2 rows of MiG-21s, just wingtip to wingtip. I mean, there had to be 12 or 14 MiG-21s there, all with red stars on the tail, all different paint camouflage schemes. And I looked at it and I'm going, oh my God, I'm really here. It just blew your mind. And there are some airplanes, half torn apart. The back half of the boat tails off because they're pulling an engine, or this one's canopy's off and they're pulling an ejection seat. And I mean, they're just all over the place. And yeah, it's really, my hat's off to those guys. And one of the things I'm doing, I was just out in Vegas here a couple of months ago interviewing a couple of our maintenance troops who I knew pretty well. And I said, hey, I really need to sit down with you guys and get as small a take as I can out of a very big story, just to make sure we don't lose it.
Yeah.
We're all getting older. And a lot of these guys, they're late 70s, some are early 80s. And some of these guys are there from almost like day one. And I'm going out there again next month to really talk to another guy and kind of get that down. So my plan is to have a whole chapter just dedicated to those guys and just a few of the things they did. And one of the more interesting stories is, which heretofore that none of them really wanted, to their credit, because I think they're a little suspect, is they're all never really wanted to sit down and talk with anybody and really tell their story, because they're always a little guarded. What's your motive? Why do you want to ask me this? I don't trust you, so no, I'm not going to do it. Well, luckily, I think I've earned their trust over the last few years being at some of the reunions. And anyway, so yeah, I'm going to get that. And that's, I think you will find that. I want to ruin it. So there's some pretty neat shit there that they did. You go, holy, that's incredible. No, again, I won't tell you what the story is, but when I was at a reunion about a year and a half ago, I asked a couple of guys as we were at a bar. It was just myself and a bunch of these maintenance guys. And I go, I always want to ask one of you guys this. No one, I've never heard it. So I asked the question, and like 2-3 guys go, oh yeah, I was there. I was on an airplane. We went and got these airplanes and we pulled them on and we flew them back. We landed in the middle of the night. We had to orbit for 4 hours until it was in the middle of the night so we could land at Tonopah to offload these airplanes. And the C-5, yeah, we broke down here. We broke down there. We couldn't let customs get on. They wanted to get, it's about if you and I were sitting at a bar, it's about a 3-beer story. But it's just, it'd be one of the best, well spent 3 beers you ever bought.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear about that. That's the piece to me, the reverse engineering, the ingenuity that had to go into it, because again, it's not like you're going to the bookstore picking off a tech manual on how this Russian motor works. They're having to figure it out, and they probably have, envision a container full of spare parts that someone has acquired some random spot in the world and now trying to figure out how to make these things fly. And then I guess too, I can appreciate, just the secrecy that went in to this. I mean, they had to have everyone, probably the fear of God read into them that, if you ever tell anyone about this, you're going to federal prison and you'll never see the light of day again. It wasn't until recently, the last decade or so, right? This is all kind of declassified, but I can appreciate it. It's some pretty wild stuff.
It is. And you can imagine the stories. And yeah, that's why I say it's probably one of the best and well-kept secrets we had during the Cold War. Because I remember just a little snippet here, talking to, unrelated, just talking to a neighbor one evening. Actually, I'm home, and a buddy of mine calls up and he says, hey, Z-Man, are you home? I go, yeah, why? He says, I've got a gal here, my neighbor, and she used to be in Air Force intelligence, and she was a linguist over in West Berlin, yada, yada, yada. And I told her that you flew MiGs, and she raised the bullshit flag. She goes, there's no way. And so I want to know if you're home. We're coming over. We're going to crack a couple whiskeys, and you're going to show her some shit. So I said, come on over. So, I showed her, and I have got, all kinds of stuff, scale models and junk like that. Told her stories, and She was just gobsmacked. She goes, how did I not know about this? I go, no one knew about it. Unless you had a need to know, you didn't know.
Yeah.
And
That's
that's, a credit to, because, over the years, we actually expose, I don't know what the exact number is. Somewhere around a couple thousand pilots to the program. And best of my knowledge, it never leaked out. Never
yeah,
leaked out.
that's
No one ever told their wives, girlfriends, or whatever. I just, so you didn't. It was great.
yeah, that's the kind of the beginning when I was wondering, when you're flying that time period, it's obviously a few years into this program being established and you're exposing more and more pilots to it. So the fact that it was kept secret all these years, it wasn't just, hey, we're picking, two guys in the squadron. It's the weapons officer and, another senior IP. I mean, you're exposing a vast number of the guys and gals in the squadron. Yeah, that's pretty, it's impressive. I mean, it's just impressive. Like, just think of acquiring these jets from all over the world, getting them back, putting them back together again. I mean, that's an amazing feat of strength to begin with, let alone go out there and actually employ and train and fight the way that enemy fights.
It was great, So we would do this, sometimes you weren't flying as much as you wanted to because maybe the airplane was down or something. That was particularly true when I went to the MiG-23. It wasn't. It was a harder airplane to keep up. I'm trying to think of a good analogy, but it's the complexity level went up 3-4 times from that of MiG-21. You got one big motor, and you've got all this other shit going on. Not to mention you got swing wing, variable geometry stuff going on there. And I think I might have shared with you one of the chapters on a hydraulic emergency. Did I send that to you?
You did, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so stuff like that, and every now and then you'd run into an emergency that no one else had ever had, and that was the case. Won't ruin it for the viewers, but yeah, you run into a compound hydraulic emergency like that, and you go, you're that close to losing the airplane, but for a little bit of luck and maybe some nerves of steel, you get the airplane back and on the ground. And had that happened on the ground before I took off, it would have been a non-event, or right after I'd landed, or had it happened maybe a few 10 seconds later, I'd failed to get the wings full forward. Yeah, I would have been punching out rather than landing at Tonopah. But so there was always that unknown element. In fact, I remember when I was interviewed for the job by George Jenin, he said, well, I just got to tell you that this is not your average squadron, which, didn't need to be said. But he went on to say that, we don't know everything we'd like to know about these airplanes. And as good as our maintenance is, we're going to have surprises. And there's an element of risk if you decide to come fly these things. We sort of trust the ejection seats, but, luckily we haven't had to really try them. So there was that. Then, right before I got there, about a year and a half before I arrived, they had a fatality. One of the guys got killed. Mark Postai, who I knew, he had actually one of the guys that briefed me as an aggressor, back when I went through aggressor school. He got killed in MiG-23. And if your viewers want to read a great book, read Red Eagles by Steve Davies, which is the best book out there on it. And Steve, a good friend of mine, he did a credible job on it. So, and he kind of documents all that. But so there's that kind of stuff. And